Kiddie Show. This is The Force Always. My name is Diz, aka David Zammit. Let's get on with the show. The news, views, reviews, and interviews. Dun dun dun. Anyway, so the news today, in the last, say, 24 hours now, Rian Johnson, who directed Episode 8, The Last Jedi, has now sort of expressed that his trilogy that he was also going to make, other than Episode 8, is effectively dead. And that's sort of partly why I put the title of this particular show, Star Wars Effectively Dead, which is not my opinion. It's because it came from an interview with Rian Johnson. It's pretty much all over the internet with Star Wars fans at the moment. Rian Johnson had a lot of hate and dislike and whatever with his movie The Last Jedi Episode 8. And I will touch on what my opinion is a bit later in the show, at the end of interviews, if you can stick around for that. To more news, which is no news is good news. No real Starfighter news. That's the movie that's coming out in 2027, and no real Mando and Mandalorian and Grogu news at the moment, which is only good news that there's no news at the moment. And when the news comes across with that, I'm wishing it's going to be all good. Anyway, so that is essentially the news for this time around. Let's get into views. Views is my story idea that involves any of the saga, and it's also to let you understand, as I say this all the time, but it's pretty important. I accept the story for Star Wars for what it is. I accept it from the start to the finish. That means the actual canon timeline, which stands at the moment, technically is from the Acolyte all the way to Rise of Skywalker Episode 9. My story idea is a variation this time, which involves our friend Rian Johnson and in The Last Jedi. One of the big dislikes of that particular film was that Luke Skywalker died, in the way that he died as well. Whatever he died, part of the fans did not like it, and I'll say a big part of the fans. For me, it was never a real problem. I did think it should happen in Episode 9, but I accept it. That's where he died. He died in a way that was, I think, fitting. He did use a force ability that could warrant the reason, being so old and, coming to an end. Even though he is a master Jedi, we still have flaws. But my variation is that should Luke Skywalker have come off like the hermit he was, or become this heroic Luke Skywalker? My initial thoughts, and still are to this day, is that Mark Hamill, which is Luke Skywalker, in Episode 7, The Force Awakens, should have been the one that got the lightsaber out of the snow and helped Rey fight Kylo Ren. That would have been the biggest roar of excitement, tears, craziness in the cinema. But at that point, technically, Luke Skywalker is from the other generations. They had to start giving, the birthright to new characters like Rey and Kylo. So it sort of made sense that, Rey was the one that got the lightsaber from the snow and fought Kylo Ren at the end of Episode 7, The Force Awakens. But the question really, and the variation of my behalf, is that should he become a hermit? I think personally, the weight of his story at that point, it does warrant it. Like, I would have loved to seen him be this heroic sort of person. I would not have made him So I don't think I would have had him lose it with Kylo Ren and losing with Ben Solo at the time, turning into Kylo Ren. I think there should be glimpses of and him coming back to life, being as strong as he was, sort of like how we saw Obi-Wan Kenobi fruition in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. But it does warrant, like, he had a lot to go through as a character, Luke Skywalker, in the original trilogy, that was 4, 5, and 6, and all the way to that point, which was, I think, 20 years later. He just felt and knew that he was a bit of a danger to the rest of the universe. So to stay away made sense, and to stay away and be influenced and know how to stay away, which was his mentor Obi-Wan Kenobi, which he sort of became a hermit, sort of makes sense. And Star Wars is a recycling of time. It's always going to be the same story, whether it's 1, 2, or 3, 4, 5, or 6, 7, 8, or 9, or even 10, 11, and 12. But 7, 8, 9 had variants, as we can tell. But yeah, anyway, so I think it's I understand he became a hermit. So the variant of him becoming that is what it is. It's in history now, in the storyline. But I get it. I get why. There could have been other reasons to make that character, really be that Master Jedi. But that would be, I think, serving fans, other than what the real story at hand within the Star Wars really had him into. I mean, he just had a lot to deal with. Anyway, that's my story idea. Whether you like it or not, that's just a story idea. Let's get into reviews. Reviews is going to be something that, because we're really coming to the month of when Force Awakens came out, almost 10 years ago. It was, I think, December 18, from what I recall. Boy, that was an exciting time, I tell you that. And what I got, one of the collectibles I got was this Time magazine with, and I've forgotten his name, my God. I've forgotten this. I've forgotten his name, my God. He's the most classic character. I've forgotten his name. This Time magazine was the promotional material and in-depth look at Star Wars The Force Awakens Episode 7. And this is a Time magazine. This is not like a fake Time magazine. This is not just a, like a Star Wars pure magazine. Time magazine that goes through historical events. Yet again, went into Star Wars. It did it through the prequels, and it may have done it through the originals, but it now did it with the sequels. I think this guy's name was B4. I mean, look, I can't believe I've forgotten this guy's name. He was one of the highlights. That guy. That rolling droid, we thought, how does this droid roll? What technology? This was amazing. But anyway, so this is a collectible. This is a 10 out of 10. This is highly collectible. It's still got the price on it. And I think it's in Australia. I bought this in Australia. So this is beautiful. Look at this. I opened it up. First thing I see, what is this? Look at that. Carrie Fisher. Princess Leia. Anyway, 10 out of 10. Don't want to say the advertising. It's, Time magazine. Anyway, so let's get into interviews. Interviews is, any type of interviews, but usually it's conducted by Michael from Werribee South, which is a part of Melbourne, but we also have another question from another person. His name is Force Maximus 84, and I do apologize for the delay of answering your question, but my last video I was unable to get this question because you had submitted it after that, but that's okay, it's all good. I'll just read his comment and his sort of question. I don't care Well, he was talking about. I was in the particular video. I was talking about Ryan Gosling's film, Hail Mary, or even possibly he's talking about Starfighter. But he says I don't care for this movie or the Mandalorian movie. I think he's referring to Starfighter. I'm just guessing. Correct me if I'm wrong. And the Mandalorian movie, or the Ray movie, that likely won't happen anyway. So he then puts a question to me, Lucas, which is 5 and 6 or nothing, which of these 6 movies did not have a screenplay by Lucas? It was Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. At that point, Lucas was inundated with lots of work. He probably sort of sat behind the camera and sort of gave story ideas and as well as directorial ideas, especially with number 6, which is Return of the Jedi. But yeah, so Lucas, I think it's it's Lucas 7 or 6 or nothing. I'm unsure what that exactly means, but which of the 6 movies did not have a screenplay by Lucas? It was Empire Strikes Back, which is episode 5, and Return of the Jedi, which is episode 6. And that's to answer your question to Force Maximus 84. Thank you very much for that question. It's great. It's a good question. But now let's get into one of our favorite friends here, Michael from Werribee South. And he's got a range of questions as per usual. And please, while I'm in this, you can send your questions, send your comments via the YouTube channel. I don't really have this Instagram thing happening at the moment. X or Twitter. For me, it's just, another form of communication that I will get onto, but I just haven't as yet. I did have one, but I had not used it for a long time. Anyway, so these questions. Pick any character, concept, or storyline, and the debate if Legends version is better than the Disney canon one. Well, the one that comes to my mind was a storyline for a game. Whether this is official Legends, I don't know, but it was visually and only a small section of the story of The Old Republic by EA Games. If you look that up on YouTube and watch this, it's a bit animated, but it's so real life animation. It's got a lot of great sounds, backgrounds, as well as just characters. It's animated, but it's not like a cartoon. It's almost set to be like a real thing. And that's short. It's only short, but it was just so good. And the way it ends, when these 2 bad guys get to this Sith planet, and he just says, "Welcome home." Just to give it away. But the master or the apprentice, I can't remember which one, killed the other one. It was just so Sith-like. It was so good. So look it up. Old Republic by EA Games. It'll be on YouTube somewhere. I'm telling you, it's a worth see. It probably goes maximum 5 minutes. Anyway, check that out. That is a thing that I would consider almost better than a lot of Star Wars things. And that doesn't mean the sequels. That means originals and prequels. I just thought that was the way that little story wrote out, the way the movement of the camera, the slow motion, it was great. It was so good. But again, I accept the story for what it is. Star Wars is a great story with ups and downs. Anyway, so the next question. In universe, if Jar Jar hadn't been born, would Palpatine's plan to create the Empire have succeeded? This is by Michael from Werribee South, just to let you know. Well, yes. He didn't need Jar Jar Binks. He used Jar Jar Binks partly to get what he wanted. But Palpatine had his finger in every crumb of the galaxy. He was ahead of the game. And I'd say, so yes, it would have succeeded. That's the answer to the question. Palpatine's plan would have succeeded without Jar Jar Binks. The inclusion of having Jar Jar Binks, part of the sort of not plan, but the storyline of Palpatine's rise, was he was just manipulating like a creature that was easy manipulative, and that's it. But the manipulation from Palpatine becoming the Emperor and becoming, ruler of the galaxy in a bad way was from the lowest life form to the highest life form. Whether that's droid, alien, or human, he was in it. He was rocking. Bad ways. Anyway, that's the answer. The next question is, would the Empire have been ruled if they kept making clone troopers instead of training recruits? Would the Empire have been ruled? It would have been ruled if they kept clone troopers instead of training recruits. It's an interesting question because you would think clone troopers would be the ultimate form of trooper, but people who became stormtroopers, which is how it was in the original trilogy storyline, that's 4, 5, and 6, episodes 4, 5, and 6. Either way, the Empire's would have been on top of the game, but I think, I think there's flaws in both. I think there's, there's always a breakdown of mechanics in clone troopers, and there's a breakdown of, human spirit in the recruits. And, the human spirit, and I'm a part of this, is about the pursuit of good. So, the Empire would have ruled it either way. And that's not sitting on the fence. That is my fact that I'm saying to you. Anyway, the next question Michael from Werribee South has: who was morally right in the Clone Wars, CIS or Republic? Well, CIS was the Confederatory of something systems. The I can't remember. And I did have to look that up. I'm not Mr. Know-it-all with Star Wars. I just love Star Wars. But really, to answer that question, no one was morally right in Star Wars. Not anyone. Not the Jedi. Definitely not the Sith. Not the Republic. Not the CIS. Not the Rebels. Because the manipulation has caused such a war amongst each other. People were just doing, and machines and aliens were just doing things constantly to look out for themselves and a certain group of people. In the name of right or wrong, they would just do it. So there was no one that really was morally right. It was just so highly manipulated that, there was no stopping until Palpatine would have been stopped. That is the Emperor, Sith Lord extraordinaire. Anyway, was the next question by Michael from Werribee South is: was Tarkin right that the Death Star could stop the rebellion? Well, yes and no. I mean, the Death Star was used to partly destroy a planet, and cause a bit of carnage. It destroyed a starfighter. It could have stopped the rebellion, but the rebellion was pretty universal spread, so it was pretty intense. If you don't believe me how big the rebellion got, well, if you look at the end of Rise of Skywalker, episode 9, if you can really just, bring yourself to watch that, I can easily watch it, but some people can't. But it's at the end, just to let you know, you'll see the size of the rebellion with all the starships at the end coming in to help Rey at the end of this film. And that's not a spoiler if you haven't seen it, but let me tell you, it was a massive amount, which is going to be, again, interesting, even though Starfighter is set 5 years after episode 9. If any inclusion of the sequel trilogy will be mentioned or heard of, or have a character from there, because, it's universally spread. I mean, it was a massive, massive end at that Rise of Skywalker episode 9 for no one not to know. But anyway, we'll have to wait and see. And the final question today: did the Clone Wars TV show actually save the prequel trilogy? Well, I've been through so much dislike with Star Wars. You know, the prequel times were like as intense of the times today, but without so much social media around. I don't think it saved the prequel trilogy. It definitely rejuvenated a lot of Star Wars fans, like real hardcore Star Wars fans, really hardcore Star Wars fans. I thought the Clone Wars series, which is animated, was probably, there was a lot of fillers, but there was a lot of explanation and there was a lot of information, which I loved. I don't know if I immensely enjoyed it, but I did enjoy it. The most powerful moment episodes in it was were usually ending episodes to the season, and so I don't think it saved the prequel trilogy. The prequel trilogy really, if you look at it, was saved by the generation who loved Star Wars at that time, who grew up as kids and now are adults, and just, each time you go to Star Wars Celebration, there's a lot of love for the prequels when there was a lot of hate. And I'm curious to know if this is going to happen in about 10 to 20 years with the sequel trilogy, which is 7, 8, 9, because that is seriously hated. As much as the prequels, but in a different time of generation. Anyway, that's the show for this time around. Until next time, my friends, keep rocking.